Welcome to the StockMiner.com studios. I'm your stockminer, Brian Johnson. Saw a pretty good move by the Bulls last week, and it all ended with a poke above the upper resistance levels that we have been watching for a long time now, and that's the 10,400 level. We talked about 10,000 below that, which we never reached, and we talked about 10,250 and 10,400, 10,400 for the more conservative traders. We got a breach of that right at the end of the day on Friday. If you did not take a trade to the long side, it's okay. It's a very hard spot to be put in to make a decision when you see something like that. A break of the 10,400 area and it doesn't really blast upwards. We had here about 2.5 hours or so of a break above that particular area, and really, the Bulls didn't exactly run it up from that point forward, which is absolutely what you wanted to see if you were bullish. So once again, they left you hanging. If you did take along, we'll just see where things open up on Monday. If we get much below about 10,250, you might not want to stay in that particular trade. That might be a time to just go ahead and cut your losses, call it good, and wait for another entry instead of hoping that it might come back up. But we'll see what we get coming into Monday morning's trading. So if you're not in it, no big deal. If you are in it, no big deal. Let's just wait and see what happens. If you are not in it, and your next entry really to the long side is to either see if this 10,400 will hold, or to get in maybe above this 10,500 level. And if we look from a daily, you can see us 10,500 would firmly put us above this this strong upper resistance, which we are up to right now. We took the trade above the 200-day moving average, and it was 24 points profit. I don't know. It's not really anything really to speak of on the Dow, but you can see that it does get us up and over this 200-day moving average. Now we're right into this overhead resistance here. I am myself very curious to see if we can break this. Based on price action and volume, what would my gut tell you? My gut would tell me that, yeah, we're going to break above this thing here. We're going to head higher. And maybe even 10,900. I could maybe see us getting back to 10,900. Now, what does my brain tell me? My brain tells me to just ignore what my gut is saying and look at what the charts are actually telling you. And the charts are telling me that we are at strong overhead resistance here. So, from a trading perspective, I do have to obey that. So we are at the strong overhead resistance. A break above 10,500, and ultimately, if it can hold then over 10,450-ish or so, I think puts you in pretty good position for that run higher. And that's why I think tomorrow will be important to see what happens. Is it going to dive back down below this 200-day moving average? Are we going to see a little gap up above this and then maybe run from there? Anybody's guess. Futures aren't open. I have no clue at this point. So we'll wait and see what happens here in the bigger picture. But according to maybe some of the price action and volume that I'm looking at here, it certainly it wouldn't have surprised me to see us run back up above that. Be watching for that. I think then above 10,400, that was a good trade. Didn't run as fast as furious as I thought it would, but above 10,500 gives you the same opportunity, I think. NASDAQ on a 60 did get above this 1860. I talked about that. I said 1860, 1865, maybe 1870 more conservative. We got all of that and a little bit more, just as we saw in the other indices. Now it's a matter of, will it hold? That's the big question. That's my one question coming into Monday. Is it going to hold? Is it going to hold? If it does, this thing I think sees 1915, 1910, somewhere up in here, whatever this area is. I suppose I can tell you what that is. That's right around the 1915 area, 1917, 1918, whatever. You get the idea. 1915-ish, somewhere up in that area. You'll want to be watching for some overhead resistance at that point. And break above that could be 1930, 1950, somewhere up in there. From a weekly, you can see what we're up against here too, and that is this upper line here. This is obviously one that the bears are going to want to hold. This is not a line that is holding on all the other indices, which is very curious. So we have the NASDAQ back up to and at this overhead blue line. The bigger number for this one is really the 20-week moving average. We get it back above there. I think the NASDAQ as a whole is pretty good long. SPX on a 60-minute did poke its head above 1100. I mentioned that to you. Talked about 1090 being a trade. We did get above 1090, then we danced around the moving average there for a while. That's on a daily. And then we popped back up and did get above 1100 by about 4 points, finishing the day at maybe 3 points above it, once again putting you all in limbo as to what to expect coming into the weekend. Same situation though. If you're long, great. If you're not long, okay, it doesn't matter. We'll just wait and see where we open on Monday and make our decision from there. SPX on a daily, you can see us just getting up and over this level. See what I'm talking about there? There's that overhead level that the Dow was kind of back to, but not over. We did manage to poke our head over it on the SPX. So your next levels to be watching are right up here around this 1113 mark. Now, we have already seen a break of this on the Dow, and they are touching this area back up here. See, so the Dow is back up and over this area here. The 200, it's back up to its area here. Let's see if we can do a little comparison here really quick. Okay, so let's go back. Look, here's the break of this little high here, and the break of the 200 coming back to retest this. Let's go back and look at the SPX. Here's a break of that. Has not broke the 200 and has not made it back to this overhead area here. So we still have some work to do on the SPX. It is lagging. It is struggling. It is back behind the Dow. Will it reach this? Sure, certainly could. I mean, we're up and over this area already. Just got to get back up into this area to kind of give us an opportunity to at least touch the 1120-ish area once we get above 1115. So be very careful with your trades in between about 1113 and 1120. That's going to be, I think, kind of a no-fly zone for me. SPX on a weekly, this is one that is different now. See how it's actually breached the blue line? The NASDAQ has not. This one has. We're still coming up on a lot of those overhead resistance levels, though. And 1124 is another strong overhead resistance level you need to have on your charts this week. Very important. VIX is just sideways. The fear is not here nor there nor anywhere at the current time. It's all choppy sideways. For me, this is kind of down in the green/yellow area here when it comes to fear in the markets. We're just kind of floundering around. Now, at this point, we are below all the moving averages, and we are below this heavy support. So if you want to call a technical, decision on the VIX, I'd say that we certainly do have opportunity for the VIX to drop even further, which should coincide with a rise in the markets. Apple on a 60-minute, we talked about this. Pushing this 260, look at that. It just doesn't get any prettier than that. What this is an ascending triangle, guys. Push back up and over that 260 area. Gives us some, I think, some pretty good opportunities for some trades long in Apple. Let's hope it doesn't gap up a large amount. Above it, probably, I think it was 260, 250-ish was a area of overhead resistance, followed by about 264. Let's take a look on the daily so we can get a better feel of that. Yeah, this area right in here is another area that we need to be watching. That is right around the 261, 260, 250. Okay, so let's call it 263 to be on the safe side. And then pushes above that. We do have a little room to run even above that. Keeping in mind, Apple being up this high, any little push above, quote-unquote, resistance is usually good for a couple dollar move, which is a nice move in Apple. Holding the 20-week, as we've talked about, really watching closely this overhead resistance and the blue line if, in fact, Apple decides to push upwards. Any major drops in Apple, you're watching for breaks below the 20-week, as always. FAS on a 60-minute, also coming up here to test some of this light overhead resistance. Any pushes above it, I think, take us anything above maybe 22 or 22.20. Take us back to 22.50. Then, of course, it's 23 on FAS. To the downside, we're looking for breaks below this area in here. So anything below about $20.75 maybe gives you 25 cents back to $20.50. Then back to about $20 after that. FAS on a daily, also showing us a move down with some choppy action in here. Lots of choppiness in through here. Reiterating once again, play these on a daily basis, just an intraday basis. But pushes above 23 might give you opportunities to play it all the way back to 24, somewhere just above 24, whatever that number is. And then, of course, to the short side, I'd be looking for still more major pushes back below here. Black, I think that's a word. I think there's a Jack Black So back below here, about $19.75 would be your next bigger opportunity to take this thing short, and it's anybody's call, guys. It's anybody's call. This is nothing but a big symmetrical triangle sitting down here at the bottom. So either direction is certainly a possibility. But I like it up and above about 23. If we can clear this 50-day moving average, I think that makes for a pretty decent call. FAZ then to the downside here. We'll be watching it below about 14, then ultimately below about 13. 1350 is probably the most conservative short that you can take there. I like it here from a daily too. Look at that, below 14 down to 13. This is really about 1360-ish or so, but I like it below 1350. That clears the way for a lot, some more moves down here to the downside. So lots of choppiness. Haven't gone anywhere since May. Play these very carefully. If you like these, play them very carefully, especially coming into this new week. Let's watch and see what happens in the bigger picture. I will be back with you again tomorrow night. Bye.